Hello. This is our second session of taping the World War II veterans of the Little Falls area. And tonight, sitting here to be interviewed with me is Mr. Anthony Raiello. Tony has been a friend of mine for a good many years, and he worked here in the school system. And he'll have some interesting things to relate to us about his experiences in World War II. So, Tony, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted.
You drafted. Did you go through Syracuse or Albany? Or?
I went to Camp Upton, Long Island.
I've heard of that.
From Utica. Then
from Utica down.
Then I went to Camp Upton, Long Island. Then from there I went to Camp George T. Robinson, Arkansas. Stayed there for basic training. Then from there I went to Bloomington, Illinois, to Midwest Motive Trade Institute to be a mechanic. And then I ended up being first cook.
That's the way the Army operates. Yeah, cooks become mechanics, mechanics become cooks.
I stayed at Bloomington for 2 months to school. Then I was sent to Fort Meade, Maryland. Stayed there about a month. Then from there went to Camp Young in California. Stayed there, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. We were supposed to be doing desert training that they all said we were going to go to Africa, and we ended up in the South Pacific. And then we left California December 7th, and we landed in Australia, in Sydney. Stayed there about a week, and then we went to Brisbane for another week or so. Then up to Darwin. Then we went to New Guinea.
Now you said December 7th. That was 1942 or 3?
42.
42. Okay, then you were drafted probably in the middle of 1942 sometime.
I was drafted October 12th, 1942.
Oh, you got a lot of, you moved around a good deal there. Did you go with a whole bunch of people from Little Falls?
The largest contingent that left Little Falls.
Well, how many was that? Or don't you know?
Well, there was maybe around 200 or 100 and something. It was real big.
I would like to know how many people served from Little Falls in World War II. Must have been 800, 1,000, maybe even more from a community. Of course, the community was bigger then. The population is down now, and it was probably at least 10,000 during the 1940s.
Oh, yeah, there must have been that.
Yeah, easily that. Did they give you any leaves between all these training things, or did you have to just stay in?
Stay in all the way.
You never got a leave?
The only time I got to leave when I was out in California, my wife was going to have the baby. And the baby died, so they gave me an emergency furlough. And I went home, and then I went back to camp. And just before we went overseas, I tried to get an get another furlough because they were giving it to everybody else. I couldn't get it. And I went to this chaplain, to see if he would get it for me. He says, "Don't worry, son." He says, "We're going east."
Yeah.
And we went.
Turned around and
went to Philippines.
You travel mostly by train?
Yeah.
Troop trains and like that? Yeah.
Then we went on this big ship that I was telling you, the U.S. West Point.
Yeah.
There were 7,000 guys on board the ship. And talk about being scared. The thing was going zigzag all the way, on account of submarines, the Japanese submarines.
They probably didn't use that in a convoy because it was probably fast enough to...
Yeah, we went all alone, no convoy.
More dangerous to go in a convoy because it would have been limited to the speed of the slower ship in the convoy. And then you went to Australia. Did you get off to Australia?
Oh, yeah. We camped on a racetrack. You want to see like we think Saratoga is nice and that. These in Australia, they're really nice. But they all go for that, racing.
Yeah.
So our camp was there, and we stayed there for, I don't know, about a week or more, 2. Then we went up to to Brisbane and stayed there for a couple of weeks. Then to Darwin, then we went to New Guinea. In New Guinea, we stayed a year.
In Australia, did you get to see any of the civilian population?
A little, not too much.
Yeah.
Because, and everything is left-handed there.
The roads?
Yeah. You drive on the left,
right.
like in England. But talk about one time a whole bunch of us guys got invited to a dinner at in Australia, and we went, and this lady said she had something real good for us, the string bean sandwich.
String bean.
We almost died when she said string bean sandwich.
Well, yeah, I never heard of a string bean sandwich before. So you got to New Guinea, and what unit were you with? I forgot.
Quartermaster.
Quartermaster. And then you ran a kitchen for any particular unit? Or
Yeah,
just
for our company, there were three, A, B, and C. And I was first cook, and I forgot who the other kid was, second cook, and we used to work from 5 in the morning till 6 at night. Then we had the next day off, and then we'd go back on. And I liked it too.
You were all right, but I had some bad experiences with Army cooks when I was in basic training. I want to tell you, I had these Southern boys that were real mean. Of course, this was 1952, and you're talking 1942. And we don't want to get into the Korean War business at all, but the cooks, I understand that today in the Army that they hire the cooking out a lot. They have contracted help.
I think they
and all
do,
that.
yeah, in some places.
People miss the great joy of being on KP at 4 o'clock in the morning, cleaning a grease trap, which is the most foul-looking thing you've ever seen. I can remember in Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, which wasn't my favorite vacation spot, doing that. Well, so, New Guinea, what was New Guinea like? It was mostly jungle there?
Yeah, all, like a lot of trees and things, they had to cut down and make roads, all dirt roads. And it was like tropical, all, like you would if you were down in Florida or California, all the, and it was warm all the time, and it rained every once in a while. And right across the street where we were was the 82nd Airborne Division. We used to see them once in a while, but otherwise we didn't do too much. Just our outfit brought ammunition to the different anti-aircraft places, and brought food around like that. And then from there we went to the Philippines.
Yeah, and probably a big convoy effort. And did you see any of the? Oh, they didn't let the convoys get too close to the big naval actions. They had a lot of battleship actions in the Philippine seas and stuff.
The only thing we saw when we were near the Philippines, a couple of airplanes, shooting at each other. We thought they were Americans, they were diving and everything, and we were all looking, and think, oh, look at that. And then when we got off the ship, they told us it was the Japanese and our P-38s, the Zero, that shooting at each other. But then we landed on a beach, and we stayed there a couple of days. Then we went in further. And
what kind of landing craft? One of those little LCIs or something?
What is it?
LST is a bigger one.
That's what when we went in. Yeah.
And the LCI was the smaller.
No,
they had different types.
The bigger one.
Can't really recall. The Philippines. You ever see old MacArthur coming on with his corncob pipe?
No, but we went where he used to stay. In the Philippines, and he wasn't there then. And but I never saw him. It was the Manila was nice. All them places. We used to go and buy ice cream. We'd pay $5 for a 5-cent cone of ice cream that you wouldn't get here. And the funny part, the guys would rob the ice cream mix and sell it to these guys.
Then buy the ice cream.
And then buy the ice cream at such an excessive price.
Was Manila pretty well shot up during the war?
Not too bad when we were there, no.
Did you ever get to see Corregidor or any of those places?
No.
They're out there in the bay.
The only thing I saw was like we saw where they had the Death March,
Oh yeah.
We saw that road where the guys went, and then like I said, when our outfit went and picked up all the prisoners of war out of that Santa Tomas College, and we brought them over to our outfit to eat.
They were in pretty bad shape, probably.
And I always remember we had beans that night, you know,
Oh.
and these guys, they ate them, and I told our guys,
Oh, yeah.
you guys moan because we have beans. I says, look at these guys eating. But they had eaten, you know, good meals for quite a while, and they were all like that, thinner than heck.
Yeah, yeah. They were treated, I think our prisoners were treated pretty badly by the Japanese. The death march, I've read something on that, and that was quite bad.
And if you saw where the road that they, you know, that they took them on, you could see why some of them, you know, died and, you know, just
If anybody
passed out.
fell, they would just shoot
Yeah,
them right there. They couldn't get up and shoot.
Didn't care about anything.
So how long were you there in the Philippines?
A little over a year.
That was to the end of the war?
I came home and I left the Philippines the day after Thanksgiving and started back home.
What did you people think when the atomic bomb went off and the Japanese saved a little time there?
Yeah, well, we were all set to get clothes for the invasion of Japan. We had turned in all our winter gear, and they were going to start issuing the summer gear for Japan. And I always remember about a week after we turned them in, they says everything is canceled, you know. And all the guys were real happy because we didn't, you know, figure we'd be closer to getting home.
I think they estimated later, they released the figures of 1 million casualties to invade Japan, and maybe 100,000 or more totally dead, and the rest wounded, something like that.
There would have been a lot of them. I saw a lot of Japanese guys, you know, Japanese soldiers that the Philippines, you know, hated them.
Oh, yeah.
And every once in a while, they'd capture some Japanese soldier and they'd kill him and just leave him on a road, sitting up, you know, staring like that, you know. And they didn't like him at all.
The Japanese lost the entire army right there in the Philippines. In fact, afterwards in Manila, I don't know if you were still there then, they had the war crimes trials in European theater. They had them in Nuremberg, the war crimes trials. But in the Pacific theater, they had some in Manila on this Japanese general who was supposed to have ordered the death march, but he didn't really order it. In fact, he didn't know anything about it. At least he claimed that in his defense, and it was possibly true. But he was executed anyway, so that was the end of him. So the war is over, you come home, another troop ship.
Yeah, we landed in San Francisco, stayed there about a week, and when I landed there, I didn't have a nickel to my name. I had some money, and some of the, you know, when you're sleeping, they pickpocket, and I had the money, they stole it, so I was broke. And when I got to San Francisco, I wired home for some money, and they sent it. And I tried to call home, and they would, every time I called, they says, a higher priority than yours, you know, this and that. So after, I don't know how many times I got mad, I said, what the heck do you mean higher than me? I said, here I've been out of the country for 2 or 3 years. I said, I'm just getting here from the Philippines. I says, I want to call home. She says, just a minute. Within a minute, she calls from San Francisco, they call Syracuse, Utica, and then they call Little Falls. And I talked to my wife and told her I was coming, you know, home. So I hung up. We go back to camp, and they usually used to send one bunch with the plane and one with the train. Well, our outfit, we got train to go home. So we get into Camp Dix, New Jersey, on Christmas Eve. So all us guys were all going to go over the hill, you know, to get home Christmas. So this lieutenant says, I know you guys take off. He says, so I'll give you all a pass to go home. You can go home for Christmas Day, but come back the next day, you know, the 26th. Everybody, oh yeah. So we got the pass, and like I says, I never did nothing wrong in the Army. I says, the hell with it. I didn't go back until the 29th of December. So then they says, we're going to punish you. You're going to have to stay here. Well, I figured it isn't bad in New Jersey like it was over there. So they didn't let me out until New Year's Eve. At 11 o'clock, I was on a train coming home. And for Christmas Eve, I was on a train. I didn't get in Little Falls until Christmas Day at 7 o'clock in the morning. And everything was so fast that I never had a chance to, call Rosie and tell her I'm going to be in Little Falls in the morning. I get down to Depot, and I called her up from there. And she says, "Where are you?" I says, "I'm down at Depot." So she ran down and picked me up because they didn't know when I was coming in. But it was a nice experience. I didn't mind it because I didn't see too much action. Like somebody else that saw a lot of action, they'd have different, opinion of the thing. But
Well, you went to a lot of different places there, all over
yeah,
the South Pacific and up to the Philippines.
Yeah.
When you got home, I guess the GIs all had preference of their jobs back. If you had a job before, did you? No problem with working back in?
Remember, they were getting that 5220.
I remember that 5220. I remember the guys who were doing it. I was younger then.
Like they told us to apply for it, so I go up to apply. The guy, no way, he says, "You gotta go and find your job."
I thought that was just automatically done.
And like I told this guy, I says, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be sitting behind a desk and working.
That's right.
But no, I couldn't get it, so I went back to Snyder's. And I went to work there. I had 13 years before I went into service, so I went back. And they were making 1,500 bikes a day. Well, every once in a while, you get like around this time of the year, they would slow down, so we'd all get laid off, a lot of us. And I would get laid off in October, wouldn't have to go back until March or April, So after the following year, there was an exam for custodian for the high school.
Yeah.
So me and Emilio says, let's go try it. Can't lose nothing. So I went, and we both passed. And then I said, gee, I don't know if I'd like the job. So I'd go and tell Bill Snyder if I could have leave of absence, for 30 days. He started laughing. He says, I never heard of anything like that where you can get. He says, if your union says it's okay with me. So the union guy worked on the same department I did. So he says, sure. So I came up here and stayed for a month. I liked it, so I wrote the union and Mr. Snyder that I liked the job and I was going to stay here.
How long did you work in this school?
33 years.
33 years. Now, when you came back, were there any parades for the World War II veterans or any
Not while I was here, when I came back. They had when they signed the armistice and all that, they had big parades then.
Right.
But when I got back, I didn't get back until December 31st, so 45. So there was really nothing going on then.
See, I was 13 years old then when they had the one in St. John's. I remember the fire trucks all came out, and we talked about this last week at the taping too. Okay. And World War II is quite a memory for you now. Do you keep up with any of the people that you knew in service?
Yeah. When was it? 2 years ago when I went out to when my daughter was going to school, Gail was going to Wright State University.
Yeah.
I went to Dayton and I met this guy that was in the service with me, and we spent all day, and he showed me all around Dayton. He worked for the NCR, and he showed me the big factory they had, the golf course and everything that they own. And he used to work nights, so during the day he'd go and play golf, and then he'd get through playing golf and he'd go in the shop, put on his work clothes and work. He was working nights. And I saw the Dayton arena where they played basketball, Dayton Flyers. Yeah, I met a few of the guys.
Okay. Well, Anthony, this was really nice that you would come up here and share your experiences with us. And we like that very much. I want to thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me.